It was a dark, rainy night. The air felt heavy with tension, and the usual hum of life on Earth had died down. But tonight, something was wrong. Something was coming. In the quiet of the storm, a sudden flash of light broke through the sky, followed by a thunderous sound that shook the ground. It wasn't a natural lightning strike. This was something far worse, an alien invasion. The Xel'Nath, a highly advanced alien race known for their ruthless tactics and technological superiority, had arrived. From the moment the first ship broke through the clouds, the city streets filled with chaos. People ran for cover as the massive Xel'Nath ships, equipped with cloaking devices and weaponry beyond human comprehension, hovered above Earth. They didn't come in peace. They came to conquer. The first wave of destruction hit hard. Orbital bombardment from the alien fleet obliterated entire cities. Buildings crumbled to the ground, sending plumes of smoke and debris into the sky. Earth's defenses, which had always been prepared for alien encounters, were no match for the precision of the Xel'Nath's attacks. With each blast, a city fell, and with each city lost, humanity's hope seemed to fade a little more. On the ground, humans were scrambling to protect what little was left. The planet's forces had been mobilized, but Earth was unprepared for this level of technological warfare. Lieutenant Bonner stood in the middle of the chaos, his eyes scanning the horizon. He was just one man, but right now, he was all that stood between Earth and complete annihilation. Bonner wasn't a typical soldier. He was part of an elite group trained for the most dangerous missions. His team, though small in number, had some of the best space tech Earth had to offer. They had the tools to fight back, but they needed to act fast. His squad huddled around him, listening to the orders as he directed them with quick precision. The Xel'Nath's eye-controlled flagship hovered above, directing the attacks on Earth's military bases. Bonner knew that if they didn't act quickly, their base would be next. "We don't have much time," Bonner shouted over the comms. "We need to get to that satellite control station and launch countermeasures. Now." His squad nodded, determination written on their faces. They ran across the battlefield, dodging explosions and falling debris, heading for the station that could possibly give them a fighting chance. The Xel'Nath ships loomed overhead, their weapons firing relentlessly. Bonner's squad took cover behind ruined walls, returning fire whenever they had the chance. Their advanced weaponry was powerful, but the alien ships were relentless. Every shot they fired seemed to do little more than scratch the surface of the enemy fleet. As the team reached the satellite control station, Bonner paused, scanning the sky. Something felt off. Then, without warning, the enemy fleet disappeared from view. For a moment, there was silence. No enemy ships, no explosions. Bonner's instincts told him something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. The team continued to move, unaware of what was about to happen next. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The station's lights flickered, and Bonner's heart skipped a beat as a strange energy field surrounded them. It was as if the very air was charged with electricity. "We're not alone," Bonner muttered. "Stay sharp." Then, out of nowhere, the massive alien flagship reappeared. But this time, it wasn't visible through the naked eye. It was cloaked, completely invisible to their sensors. Bonner's heart raced. The Xel'Nath had activated their cloaking device, and now they were truly blind. The enemies could attack from anywhere, and they wouldn't even know it until it was too late. His team spread out, taking defensive positions around the station. Every step felt like an eternity. With every passing second, they waited for the inevitable ambush, knowing that the invisible enemy could strike at any moment. And then the first shot rang out. A loud crack, followed by the high-pitched whine of a laser beam. The shot came from nowhere, but it hit with terrifying accuracy, barely missing one of Bonner's soldiers. It was clear now. This was no ordinary battle. The Xel'Nath had the technology to turn the tide of war in an instant. "Take cover," Bonner shouted. His squad scattered, moving as fast as they could. The cloaked ships were everywhere, invisible to their eyes, but not to their ears. The sound of alien weaponry filled the air, and Bonner's squad fired back blindly, hoping to land a hit. It was chaos, total chaos, and yet, amid the confusion, Bonner's instincts kicked in. As a soldier, he had trained for moments like this. He had been taught to think quickly and adapt to any situation, and that's exactly what he did. "Listen up," Bonner shouted, his voice cutting through the madness. "The Xel'Nath may be invisible, but their energy sources are not. I need you all to focus on the patterns. We can track their movements through the heat signatures." His team acknowledged the plan, though they had no idea how they were going to pull it off. Bonner and his squad knew that if they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. The alien ships were still firing, and the air was thick with the hum of alien energy. But Bonner and his team weren't giving up. They had one advantage: human emotions and instincts. They didn't think in cold, calculating patterns like the Xel'Nath did. Humans fought with heart, with desperation, and with hope. As they fought, Bonner's mind raced. He was starting to see the bigger picture. He realized that the Xel'Nath's AI might be powerful, but it was not infallible. There was a flaw in their logic, a weakness in their cold, emotionless decision-making. The AI couldn't understand the human capacity for unpredictability, for fighting against all odds when everything seemed lost. Bonner's thoughts were interrupted by another laser blast. His soldier, Sergeant Harris, was hit and went down hard. Bonner's chest tightened. He couldn't afford to lose anyone. Not now. Not when they were so close to finding a way to turn the tide. He gritted his teeth and focused. There was no time to mourn the fallen. They had to survive. They had to fight. "Keep moving," Bonner shouted, rallying his team. "We have to disable their cloaking tech. It's the only way we're going to win this." But as Bonner and his team fought back, one thing became clear. They weren't just up against an alien force. They were up against an AI that didn't understand them. And they had just found their one weakness: human instinct. As the battle raged on, Bonner realized the truth. The war for Earth's survival was just beginning, and it was going to take everything they had to win. As Bonner and his team struggled to survive the relentless alien attack, they discovered that the Xel'Nath AI is deeply flawed in ways they never expected. Humans might be the underdogs in this war, but they had one thing the aliens didn't: the power of emotion and unpredictability. Bonner's squad has just found the key to defeating the seemingly unstoppable alien invaders, but with alien forces closing in and time running out, can they act fast enough before it's too late? The underground bunker was a dark, cold place. The hum of computers and the software of machinery were the only sounds that broke the silence. Bonner and his squad had managed to find shelter here after narrowly escaping the alien attack on the surface. But they weren't safe. Not yet. They had to act fast, or Earth would fall. Bonner wiped the blood from his brow, exhaustion weighing heavily on his shoulders. His squad was small, but they were Earth's last line of defense. They had already lost so much. Too many soldiers had died in the first wave of the invasion. Sergeant Harris, who had been hit earlier, was now in critical condition. The pain of loss was still fresh, and the weight of it felt unbearable at times. But they couldn't stop, not when humanity's future depended on them. In the heart of the bunker, Bonner stood over a console, fingers flying across the keys as he tried to hack into the alien systems. His mind was focused, but his thoughts were clouded by grief. He had seen too much death in such a short time. Yet he knew this was the moment they could turn the tide. They had to. The Xel'Nath's AI-driven military strategy was far beyond anything humans had ever encountered. Their ships were near invincible, their weapons deadly, and their tactics flawless. At least, they seemed flawless. But Bonner had learned something during his brief encounter with the alien forces. The Xel'Nath AI, despite its immense power, was not perfect. It could only make decisions based on logic. It could predict the future with terrifying accuracy, calculating every possible scenario. But there was one thing it could not account for: human emotion. The human mind, with all its unpredictability, couldn't be predicted by any machine. The Xel'Nath's eye was logical, yes, but it lacked the heart that made humans unpredictable and dangerous. Bonner and his team had realized this after the glitch they encountered during the battle. The AI could not anticipate the instinctual decisions that humans would make in the heat of the moment. And that was their key to victory. Bonner turned to his team, his voice low but determined. "We need to use this. The AI is too predictable. If we can disrupt its calculations, we can blind them. The key is emotion. They can't understand it, but we can use it to our advantage." His word hung in the air, and for a moment, no one spoke. The squad members exchanged glances, their faces grim. The weight of their mission was heavy on all of them. But they knew Bonner was right. This was their only chance. "Let's do it," Corporal Rice said, his voice steady but filled with an underlying tension. "We'll find a way." Bonner nodded, turning back to the console. He worked in silence, knowing the clock was ticking. The Xel'Nath had already breached Earth's outer defense line, and they were closing in fast. Bonner had learned that the alien fleet had set its sights on Earth's last remaining defense station, the only one capable of standing up to the Xel'Nath's might. If they lost this station, it would be the end. Hours passed as the team worked, but progress was slow. The alien systems were sophisticated, designed to counter any hacking attempts, and they had no backup plan if things went wrong. But then, just as Bonner was beginning to lose hope, the console beeped. A green light flickered on the screen. They had breached the system. A flood of data poured in, and Bonner's eyes widened as he sifted through the information. He found what they needed: an algorithm, a loophole in the AI system that relied on logical patterns. The flaw was there, hidden within the alien code. It was simple but brilliant. The AI was programmed to calculate possible outcomes based on cold logic. It didn't account for the chaos of human emotion, the unpredictability of instinct, the kind of decisions that could only be made when someone was desperate. Bonner's heart raced as he realized what this meant. They could use their emotions, their unpredictable nature, to manipulate the alien AI into making mistakes. But there was a catch. The process wouldn't be easy. The AI would fight back hard. If they didn't do it right, the alien fleet could retaliate with devastating force. They would have to make it seem like an instinctive attack, a reaction born from pure emotion. There would be no time for second chances. Bonner and his team would have to gamble everything on one final strike. But as the team prepared to launch their counterattack, Bonner's thoughts turned inward. The grief of losing so many soldiers was almost too much to bear, but he couldn't let it control him. He had to focus. His team needed him. Humanity needed him. Then, as if on cue, the sound of distant explosions reached their ears. The Xel'Nath were getting closer. Bonner knew they didn't have much time left. The team gathered around the main table, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screen. Bonner looked at each of them in turn. The weight of what was about to happen was clear in their eyes. They all knew the risks. They all knew that this mission might be their last. "We're doing this for Earth," Bonner said quietly, his voice rough with emotion. "For all the people we've lost. For everyone we're fighting to protect. But it's going to take everything we've got. We're going to make them feel what we feel. We're going to make them experience the raw, unpredictable power of humanity." There was no hesitation now. The squad was ready. With their hearts heavy with the weight of their fallen comrades, they set their plan into motion. As the team moved to carry out their mission, Bonner found himself standing at the entrance of the bunker, staring out into the darkness of the battlefield. The rain had stopped, but the world outside was still a mess of chaos and destruction. He knew the sacrifice he was about to make could cost him everything. There was no turning back. He turned to Reyes, his second in command. "Keep them safe," he said softly, his voice filled with an emotion he rarely showed. Reyes nodded, his face set in grim determination. "We'll win this, sir. We're not backing down." Bonner gave a final nod, and then stepped into the storm. The rain had stopped, but his heart was still heavy. He knew the path ahead would be dangerous. But as he moved forward, a quiet resolve settled over him. This was the only way. If he had to sacrifice himself to save Earth, then he would do it without hesitation. The team's mission was clear. They would have to hack into the alien systems, disrupt their calculations, and create chaos in the Xel'Nuth's perfect strategy. It would be a long shot, but it was their only hope. As Bonner made his way to the heart of the alien fleet, he didn't know if he would survive. But one thing was certain: humanity's spirit was far stronger than any alien technology, and that was the edge they needed to win this fight. Bonner had just uncovered the truth. The Xel'Nuth's AI, despite its vast power, had a critical flaw. Humanity's emotions, its unpredictability, could be their greatest weapon. But as Bonner and his squad prepare for their most dangerous mission yet, the question remains: will they be able to disrupt the alien AI in time, or will their emotions be their downfall? Time was running out, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The journey to the heart of the Xel'Nuth flagship was a perilous one. Bonner and his team had already faced numerous obstacles, but the worst was yet to come. The massive alien ship loomed in the distance, its dark silhouette casting a shadow over the stormy skies. Every inch of the ship was a fortress, its cold, metallic surface reflecting the distant flashes of battle. It was here, amidst the chaos, that they would make their final stand. Bonner adjusted the straps of his gear, his eyes scanning the landscape. His squad was with him, but the air was thick with tension. They knew the mission was nearly impossible. They had no backup, no reinforcements, and no second chances. This was it. If they failed, Earth would fall. But Bonner wasn't going to let that happen. He had come too far, lost too many comrades, to back down now. The Xel'Nuth flagship was a marvel of alien technology, an imposing structure that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. The exterior was layered with a strange, shimmering material that deflected most types of conventional weaponry. But Bonner's team had something the aliens didn't: human ingenuity and raw emotion. It was these very things that had driven them this far, and it was these things that would see them through to the end. As they approached the entrance, Bonner activated his cloaking device, blending into the shadows. His squad followed suit, moving silently toward the flagship's main hatch. The tension in the air was palpable. They had to get inside without being detected, or the entire mission would fail before it even began. But Bonner knew they had to act quickly. The Xel'Nuth would be on high alert after the earlier attacks, and their AI would be monitoring every move. Inside the flagship, the environment was cold and sterile, like the very heart of the machine that ran it. The corridors were long and narrow, lined with alien technology that pulsed with a low, humming energy. Every corner was a potential danger, every shadow a hiding place for the super-intelligent robots that patrolled the ship. Bonner's heart raced, but he kept his focus. He had been in worse situations before. This was just another battle to win. As they moved deeper into the ship, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The Xel'Nuth's eye was everywhere, controlling every system, every movement. The ship was alive with its presence, but Bonner had learned something crucial. The AI's greatest flaw was its lack of empathy. It couldn't understand the emotional bond that humans shared, something that made them unpredictable, something that made them dangerous. The AI was a machine, cold and logical, incapable of understanding the chaos of human emotion. This flaw was both a curse and a blessing. While the AI could calculate every possible scenario, it couldn't account for the unexpected: human instinct, human decision-making, the ability to act in the heat of the moment. Bonner and his team had already seen how this flaw could be used against the Xel'Nuth. Now it was time to exploit it. Bonner crouched down beside a panel on the wall, quickly pulling out his hacking equipment. He knew that the AI-controlled systems were tightly guarded, but he also knew that it was their best chance to disrupt the Selmuth's operations. He plugged in his device, fingers flying across the keys as he bypassed the first layer of security. Sweat dripped down his face, but his mind was sharp. The clock was ticking, and they had no time to waste. Suddenly, the console flashed red, a warning blaring through the speakers. The ship's internal defense systems had detected the intrusion. Bonner cursed under his breath. He had expected this, but it didn't make it any easier. The ship's robotic sentries were now on high alert, and the team's window of opportunity was rapidly closing. Time to move, now. Bonner hissed to his squad. Without waiting for a response, he pressed a button on his wrist, activating the cloaking devices. His team followed suit, their figures disappearing into the shadows as they sprinted down the hallways. The stakes had just gotten higher. The first line of defense came in the form of the Selmuth's robotic soldiers, super-intelligent machines designed for combat. They were fast, ruthless, and had been programmed to adapt to any threat. The squad had expected this, but that didn't make the fight any less brutal. Bonner and his team engaged the robots in close-quarters combat, using their agility and emotions to outmaneuver the cold, calculated machines. Bonner lunged forward, his knife slicing through the air as he took down one of the robots. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, his mind sharp despite the chaos. The robot's cold, metallic body clattered to the ground with a thud, its systems flickering out of life. But there was no time to celebrate. More robots were coming, and they were getting closer. The squad moved as a unit, working together to take down the oncoming robots. Sergeant Harris was in the thick of it, his rifle blasting with deadly precision as he cleared the path. Corporal Rise was a blur of motion, using his combat skills to disarm and disable the robots with brutal efficiency. But it was Bonner who led the charge, his instincts guiding him as he took down robot after robot, his every move a calculated risk. The robots were relentless, but Bonner knew they had one advantage. The AI couldn't predict the way humans fought. While the robots analyzed every movement and calculated their response, Bonner and his team acted on instinct, using their emotions to fuel their actions. They were unpredictable, and that made them dangerous. As they fought their way through the ship, Bonner's mind raced. He could hear the distant hum of the ship's engines, the low rumble of the orbital drones that hovered overhead, waiting to strike. The Selmuth's drones were armed with devastating weapons, capable of wiping out entire cities with a single blast. The team had to disable them if they stood any chance of surviving. But as Bonner turned a corner, he came face to face with the enemy's most deadly weapon, an orbital drone hovering just above them, its weapons primed and ready to fire. Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he assessed the situation. They were trapped, with no way out. But his squad didn't flinch. They had been through worse, and they weren't going to back down now. "EMP blast, on my mark," Bonner ordered. His team nodded, preparing the devices. The drone's sensors scanned the area, oblivious to the human determination just below it. 3, 2, 1, mark, Bonner shouted. The EMP blast erupted, sending a pulse of energy into the drone's systems. For a split second, the drone's lights flickered, its systems shutting down. It was enough time for Bonner and his team to take it down. With a well-aimed shot, the drone exploded in a burst of sparks and fire, its remains falling to the ground with a crash. Breathing heavily, Bonner turned to his team. "We're almost there. Let's finish this." The fight was far from over, but Bonner knew they had just taken a crucial step toward victory. They had disrupted the Selmuth systems, disabled their most dangerous weapons, and proven that their emotions, their instincts, were the key to defeating the alien threat. But the real challenge was still ahead. They had to reach the heart of the ship, where the AI's core resided, and destroy it. As they pressed forward, Bonner couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. They were making progress, and they were doing it on their terms. The AI's flaw was their strength, and they were going to use it to save Earth. With the Selnuth's flagship defenses disabled, Bonner and his team are closer than ever to reaching the heart of the ship. But the AI's final line of defense, the super-intelligent robots and orbital drones, is still a deadly obstacle. As Bonner and his squad fight their way through the ship, they must rely on their instincts and emotions to outsmart the cold, calculating AI. The battle is far from over, and the stakes have never been higher. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Bonner and his team had made it this far, but the final stretch of their mission was the most dangerous. The Selnuth flagship, now in Earth's upper atmosphere, was preparing for the orbital bombardment that could obliterate the last remnants of human resistance. With every passing second, the chances of stopping it seemed slimmer, but Bonner refused to give up. He knew that this was their only shot, and he wasn't about to let Earth fall to the cold, emotionless aliens. As they neared the heart of the ship, the corridors became even more hostile. The eerie, sterile interior of the Selnuth ship pulsed with the faint hum of alien machinery, the walls lined with strange symbols and glowing lights. Bonner's squad was spread out, moving cautiously through the ship's labyrinthine structure, each of them aware that they were walking into the very belly of the beast. Every decision now felt heavier. They were close, but there was still so much standing between them and victory. The clock was ticking down. Earth's last line of defense was crumbling, and Bonner could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. His friends, his comrades, every one of them had made it this far at a great cost. The battle had taken its toll on them, physically and emotionally. Bonner had lost too many to count, and yet he pushed forward. This was the final step. Their emotions, their drive to protect what they loved, had brought them to this point. Now it would have to be enough to see them through. As Bonner's hand gripped his rifle tighter, he couldn't help but think of the soldiers they had lost. Sergeant Harris had fallen in the earlier assault, his body left behind in the wreckage of the alien drones. Corporal Rice, brave and selfless, had been struck down during the fight with the orbital drones. Bonner could still hear the sounds of his last words, the emotion in his voice as he had told Bonner to finish what they started. Each of those deaths weighed heavily on him, but they had also fueled his determination. He would not let their sacrifice be in vain. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the command center. It was located deep within the heart of the flagship, a vast, open chamber that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. The walls were lined with advanced alien technology, the core of the Selnuth's war machine. At the center of the room was a massive glowing console that controlled the flagship's systems, its weapons, its defenses, and its orbital bombardment. Bonner knew that this was the heart of the ship, the place where the AI's control was strongest. If they were to have any chance of stopping the impending destruction of Earth, they had to disable the ship's core systems. But just as they moved to make their final assault, they were met with the full force of the Selnuth's defenses. The ship's internal security systems were more advanced than anything Bonner had ever faced. Robots, armed to the teeth, emerged from hidden alcoves, their red eyes glowing ominously in the darkened room. The AI had anticipated this move, and it had prepared for it. The squad was outnumbered, and the stakes had never been higher. Bonner didn't hesitate. He signaled to his team, and they sprang into action. The room erupted in chaos as Bonner and his squad fought back the robotic soldiers. The sound of gunfire and the clash of metal rang out, filling the chamber with a deafening noise. Bonner's heart raced, but his mind was focused. He moved with a purpose, every step calculated, every shot fired with precision. The robots came at them from all angles, but the humans were relentless. They were fighting for their survival, for their families, for Earth. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a battle for the future of humanity. As the battle raged on, Bonner's thoughts kept drifting back to his fallen comrades. He could feel their presence with him, urging him to keep fighting. They had all known the risks. They had all made the decision to stand and fight, no matter the cost. And now, as the AI-controlled robots closed in, Bonner knew that his sacrifice was inevitable. The AI didn't understand sacrifice. It didn't understand love, grief, or hope. It couldn't comprehend why humans would fight with such ferocity when faced with certain death. But Bonner and his team weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something more. They were fighting for the future, for the promise of a world free from the clutches of the alien empire. With a final, powerful blast, Bonner disabled one of the robot soldiers, sending it crashing to the ground. But even as they took down their enemies one by one, Bonner could see that they were running out of time. The ship's core was still active, and the countdown for the orbital bombardment had begun. Earth's fate was sealed unless they acted quickly. Bonner turned to his squad, his voice hoarse as he gave the order. "We need to shut it down. Now." One of the soldiers, Lieutenant Sanchez, ran to the console, his fingers flying across the alien keyboard as he tried to access the ship's core systems. But the AI's defense protocols were too strong. Every time Sanchez thought he had gained control, the system pushed back, locking him out. "We're running out of time," Sanchez shouted, his voice frantic. Bonner's mind raced. He knew they couldn't afford to waste any more time. There was only one way to stop the AI, but it would come at a great cost. Bonner looked around at his team, his family, and knew that this was the moment that would define their legacy. He couldn't ask anyone else to do it. The sacrifice had to be his. "Get out," Bonner commanded, his voice firm. "Bonner, no," Sanchez began, but Bonner cut him off. "Just do it. This is the only way." Bonner ran toward the heart of the core, where the AI's mainframe was housed. He could feel the heat emanating from the console, the pulse of energy vibrating through the room. The countdown to the orbital bombardment was almost complete, and Bonner knew that only by overriding the core could they stop the destruction. But it would require a direct connection to the core, an irreversible connection. With a deep breath, Bonner connected his hacking device to the core. The system responded instantly, a surge of electricity coursing through his body. Pain shot through him, but he didn't pull away. This was it. This was his final mission, his final act of defiance against the alien empire. He could feel his body weakening, his vision blurring, but he held on. The countdown was almost at 0. He had to finish it. "Goodbye," Bonner whispered, knowing that his death would be the key to saving Earth. The ship's core exploded in a brilliant flash of light as the orbital bombardment was deactivated. Earth's fate had been sealed. As Bonner's vision faded, he smiled. They had won. The aliens had been defeated, not by superior technology, but by the strength of humanity's willpower, by their unshakable determination, and by their emotional bond. Bonner's ultimate sacrifice ensured Earth's survival, but at a great personal cost. As the flagship falls, humanity is left with the knowledge that it wasn't just their weapons, but their heart and spirit that saved them. The war may be over, but the memory of those who fought, and those who fell, will never fade. The air inside the Exelamouth flagship was thick with tension. Bonner's squad had fought their way through the ship, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. The stakes had never been higher. As they reached the final corridor leading to the core, every footstep seemed to echo with the weight of their mission. Bonner's heart raced as he pushed forward, but he knew that the hardest part was yet to come. Commander Threx, the ruthless leader of the Exelamouth, was waiting for them. And he was ready to end this war once and for all. The team had been through hell and back, but they were determined to see this through. Bonner glanced at his soldiers, each of them battered, bloodied, but not broken. Their resolve was unwavering. They had made it this far, and they were willing to give everything to save Earth. Suddenly, the lights in the hallway flickered, and a low, menacing voice echoed through the ship. "You are too late, humans. You have no idea what you're up against." The voice belonged to Commander Threx, and Bonner knew that the moment had arrived. The enemy was in full control now, and the final weapon was about to be unleashed. Threx's words were followed by a loud mechanical sound. The walls around them began to shake as if the ship itself was coming to life. Bonner could hear the hum of energy building, the unmistakable sound of a weapon preparing for activation. The flagship's core was just ahead, but they couldn't reach it in time. Threx had already taken steps to ensure that Earth's fate was sealed. "We need to move, now," Bonner shouted, adrenaline surging through his veins. But even as he spoke, he knew it might be too late. The countdown had begun, and the ship was about to fire its final, catastrophic weapon. The corridor ahead was bathed in an eerie red glow as they charged forward. Bonner led the charge, his mind focused, his instincts sharp. He had been through countless battles, but this was different. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about saving everything they had fought for, everything they had lost. As they approached the core, Bonner could feel the temperature rising, the air growing thicker with each passing second. The countdown for the Telemoth weapon was accelerating, and they were running out of time. But Bonner didn't hesitate. He was close, so close. He knew that this was their last chance. Inside the core chamber, the massive control panel hummed with life. Alien symbols danced across the surface, each one more complex than the last. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as he moved towards the main terminal, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the moment. They had come this far, and now it was time to end it. But before he could reach the terminal, Frex's cold, menacing form appeared before them. The alien commander stood tall, his dark, helmeted figure exuding an aura of absolute authority. His eyes, glowing with an unnatural light, locked onto Bonner. "You think you can stop me? You think you can change the inevitable? You're nothing but ants beneath my boot," Threx sneered. Bonner gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening. "You're wrong," he muttered under his breath. "We're not ants. We're humanity." Without warning, Threx raised his hand, and the ship's security systems activated. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from the walls, forcing Bonner and his team to dive for cover. The room became a war zone, the blasts reverberating off the walls with deafening force. Bonner's squad fought back with everything they had. Gunfire rang out, and the sound of metal clashing with metal filled the air. But even as they fought, Bonner knew they were losing the battle. Threx's weapon was too powerful, and their time was running out. As Bonner ducked behind a piece of debris, he caught a glimpse of the countdown timer on the control panel. Less than 2 minutes remained before Earth's destruction would be complete. His heart sank, but he refused to let despair take hold. He had one last card to play, one last chance to stop this madness. "Cover me," Bonner shouted to his team. Without waiting for a response, he sprinted towards the control panel, dodging blasts and falling debris. The heat in the room was unbearable, and the ship was shaking violently as if it were alive, fighting against them. Bonner's vision blurred, but he pushed forward, determined to finish what they had started. Threx, seeing Bonner's move, stepped forward with a laugh. "You can't stop me. This ship will destroy your planet, and there's nothing you can do about it." Bonner's hands flew across the terminal as he hacked into the system, his mind racing. He could feel the presence of the AI trying to block his every move, its algorithms designed to counter every human tactic. But Bonner had an advantage that the AI couldn't anticipate: his unpredictability. The AI could calculate every possible scenario, but it couldn't account for the sheer willpower of a human willing to sacrifice everything. With only seconds left on the countdown, Bonner made the decision. He knew that his life would be the price to pay for this victory. There was no way to shut down the weapon without making a personal connection to the core, something the AI would never allow without a direct interference. It was the only way to stop the countdown, and Bonner knew that it would cost him everything. "Goodbye, Earth," he whispered to himself, knowing this was his final moment. With a final surge of energy, Bonner connected his hacking device directly to the core of the ship. The explosion of data hit him like a tidal wave, and for a moment, everything went white. Pain coursed through his body, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer power of the system. The AI's defenses fought back with everything it had, but Bonner was determined. He refused to let this ship destroy everything he had fought for. In the final seconds, Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. The ship's self-destruct sequence activated, but not before the countdown was reversed. Frex screamed in fury as the flagship began to implode, its systems shutting down one by one. The AI's control was lost, and the destruction of Earth was prevented. Bonner fell to the floor, his body breaking under the strain of the energy surge. His vision blurred, and he felt himself slipping away. But even as his life faded, he couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. He had done it. The human race was safe, and Earth would live to fight another day. As the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, Bonner's sacrifice became the turning point in the war. The Excelinoth had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Bonner's death, though tragic, had ensured the survival of Earth, and as the dust settled, his team, his family, looked on, knowing that they had lost a great leader but gained a new sense of hope. Humanity had won. The battle was over. The Excelinoth Empire, once a colossal force, had crumbled under the weight of humanity's relentless will. The Earth had survived, but the cost had been immense. Bonner, the man who had led them to victory, lay dead, his sacrifice etched into the heart of every soldier and civilian who had witnessed the war's end. His name would forever be remembered, not just as a hero, but as a symbol of humanity's strength. The dust had barely settled when Bonner's squad stood amidst the ruins of the Excelinoth flagship. The massive warship, now nothing more than a twisted wreck, lay in orbit above Earth, a testament to the battle that had raged between two vastly different civilizations. But for all the power that Excelinoth had brought to bear, it was humanity's heart that had won the day. The team had lost so much. The faces of Bonner's fallen comrades haunted them, their absence a painful reminder of the price of war. But amidst their grief, there was a sense of triumph. The world they had fought for was still standing. Earth was free, and humanity had proven, once and for all, that they were a force to be reckoned with. Bonner's death was the catalyst for this victory, a turning point that had changed everything. His final sacrifice had been the key to unlocking the strength that lay dormant within every human. The AI-driven Excelinoth had underestimated the power of human emotions: love, fear, hope, and anger, forces that could not be predicted or controlled by any machine. In the end, it was those emotions, those raw, untamed instincts, that had led humanity to triumph. As Earth began to recover from the invasion, the true impact of the victory started to sink in. Cities were rebuilt, nations came together, and humanity's resolve became unbreakable. The Excelinoth Empire, with all its technological might, had been toppled not by advanced weapons or superior technology, but by something far greater: the unyielding spirit of humanity. In the days that followed, the world mourned Bonner's loss. Memorials were built in his honor, statues erected in his name. His sacrifice was immortalized in history books, and his story was told from one generation to the next. The message of his death was clear. No matter how powerful an enemy might be, humanity would always find a way to rise, to fight back, and to win. But Bonner's sacrifice went beyond just military victory. It became a symbol of the emotional strength that defined humanity. The very thing that the Excelinoth had failed to understand was the one thing that ultimately led to their downfall. Humanity's ability to connect with each other, to form bonds, and to fight for something greater than themselves had proven to be far more powerful than any algorithm or super-intelligent AI. As the world began to heal, Bonner's squad found themselves at a crossroads. They had been soldiers in a war, but now they were heroes in a world that needed rebuilding. They had lost so much, but they had gained even more. The bonds they had formed with each other, the friendships that had been forged in the fires of battle, would last a lifetime. Together, they had faced the impossible, and together, they had triumphed. But the true test was not over. The victory over the Excel-Enough had opened the door to a new world, a world where humanity could shape its own future. And Bonner's squad, though scared by the war, were ready to embrace that future. They knew that the fight was not just about survival, it was about growth, about rising above the darkness and becoming something greater. In the aftermath of the war, Earth began to rebuild itself in a way that no one had imagined before. Technology, once seen as a tool for domination, was now used to heal and improve the planet. The lessons learned from the war shaped every decision, every policy, and every action taken in the years that followed. Humanity had learned the value of unity, of standing together in the face of adversity. The power of the human spirit was unmatched, and the Excel-Enough had discovered that the hard way. But even as Earth began to flourish once again, there were those who knew that the fight was far from over. The Excel-Enough may have been defeated, but the universe was vast, and there were always new threats on the horizon. Bonner's squad, now more than just a group of soldiers, became the leaders of a new era. They helped guide humanity into the future, using the lessons they had learned to build a world that was stronger, more united, and more resilient than ever before. As the years passed, Bonner's legacy lived on. The world was forever changed by the war, but it was Bonner's sacrifice that had given humanity the chance to start anew. His name became synonymous with courage, selflessness, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. His death had not been in vain. It had been the spark that ignited a new beginning. And so, humanity moved forward, forever carrying the memory of Bonner and the sacrifice he made. The emotional strength that had led them to victory over the Excel-Enough was now a part of who they were. It was the heart of their identity, the driving force that would guide them through any challenges that lay ahead. The message of Bonner's sacrifice was clear. No matter how dark the world may seem, no matter how powerful the enemy, humanity's resilience and strength will always shine through. The future was theirs to shape, and they would never forget the lessons of the past.